So we are working on simplifying expressions using order of operations. So I'm gonna basically kind of walk you through the notes and hopefully be able to answer some questions and give you a one-on-one kind of feel for it. So we're gonna start off with the fill in the blanks. A numerical expression, which is what these are called. So you can have your child fill out the wording part as you're reading it to them or as you're going over and explaining. So a numerical expression like 3 times 2 plus 4 minus 5 is a combination of numbers and operations, which the operations are the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division signs. The order of the operations tells you which operation to perform first when simplifying numerical operations. So something else that I usually make sure that I like to do is vocabulary and adding those definitions, because for me and for a lot of the students, when you can understand the vocabulary that's being used, it helps internalize and make the work a little more understanding. So next I want to do the definitions for simplify and order of operations, again to just kind of go over with the kids before they dive into the work, so hopefully the vocabulary can help them understand the process as they're going through it and as you're explaining it, because they need to be familiar with that vocabulary, because that's what's going to be used and asked when they do take district exams and so forth and so on. That vocabulary is so important. So just somewhere over here on the side, to simplify is the same as finding the value. So to simplify, I find the value of a numerical expression with more than one operation. You must follow rules, and in turn, those rules are called order of operations. This is why I hate mechanical pencils. These things give me the blues. I need a regular pencil. So again, the order of operations tells you what order you should do first when simplifying. And for 5th grade, we do not do exponents. So every time we do the GEMDAS and write it out, I always have them cross out the E for exponents. They don't do that until 6th grade. And we also don't do this little grouping symbol. We only do the brackets and the parentheses. No exponents. And when it comes to multiplication and division, you'll see those two are next to each other, and addition and subtraction is right next to each other. So this means when you're solving the GEMDAS in the problem, you write it out this way, but in the problem, whichever comes first out of these two. So if you see division first before multiplication, you're going to divide first, and vice versa. And the same goes with addition and subtraction. These two go together, so whichever you see first in the problem is the one that you're going to solve first. So let's move on to a little bit of practice. As always, I always tell them, write down your strategy, write down your strategy, write down your strategy. That's your reminder, that's your help, and these are the things that we write on the brain dump. So when they know we got order of operations type problems, they know I need to write down my GEMDAS, or I need to use GEMDAS. So, step 1, work within the parentheses. If there is more than one operation within parentheses, continue to follow the order of operations, which again is our GEMDAS strategy. Within the parentheses, you see here we have the parentheses and then divided by 2. So the first thing you want to do is multiply or divide from left to right, whichever comes first in the problem. Since we have parentheses, multiplication comes first, so we'll multiply 15 times 4. So over to the side somewhere, 15 times 4, 4 times 5 is 20, carry your 2, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 gives us 6. So we know right here it's going to be 60. And you continue to work within the parentheses because we still have a problem within the parentheses, so we're not finished with our grouping symbols, which is what we're on first. So now we're going to add or subtract whichever comes first in the problem or whichever is in the problem. Now we're going to add 4 plus 60. 4 plus 60 is going to give us 64. So now our new problem is 64 divided by 2. So if you divide 64 by 2, 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 2 gives us 6. We're going to subtract that, bring down our 4. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 gives us 4. And again, we have no remainder. So therefore, 64 divided by 2 gives us 32, which will be our final answer. So now we're going to move on to another problem, and this is more similar to how the kids see it, not so much next to each other like over here when they're breaking it down for them step by step. So here you'll get a better visual of how the kids actually see it and how, so actually while they're doing it, it'll kind of make more sense while they're doing it a little bit differently than kind of how it looks over here for this example. So first, of course, always rewrite out the problem and write down your GEMDAS strategy. And we don't use exponents, so we're going to cross out the E. Our problem is 90 minus 16 divided by brackets 2 plus parentheses 9 minus 7 times 3 close brackets. So grouping symbols are the brackets and parentheses. And as you can see, typically you're going to do the parentheses part first, because then once you get this answer, you can plug it into the brackets. And once we finish the brackets, that'll be the last of our grouping symbols. So first, 9 minus 7, that gives us 2. So I always have them write the answer that they just solved directly under what they solved, and then bring everything else down that's around them exactly how they see it. So again, we did our parentheses, but we still have brackets. So now we have 2 plus 2 times 3. Checking our strategies and our order of operations, we know that we multiply and divide before we add and subtract. So now we solve this portion. Now we're going to multiply. So 2 times 3 gives us 6. So again, write it directly under what you're solving. We still have those brackets, and bring everything else straight down. Now, still in grouping symbols, but now the only function or operation we have left is to add. So 6 plus 2 gives us 8. Now we're done with those grouping symbols, so we can cross off or check off our G. We don't have to bring the brackets down because we're through solving everything in the brackets. So now we just have our answer, which is 8. And bring everything else down. Now, moving along in our order of operations, now we're at multiplication and division. This is what we're working on now because we just solved this. So now we have subtraction and division. We do multiplication and division first, so therefore we're going to solve 16 divided by 8. You can't get 8 out of 1, but you can get 8 out of 16 2 times. 8 times 2 gives us 16, which leaves us with nothing. So therefore, plug that in, and now we have 90 minus 2. 90 minus 2 leaves us with 80. And that is our problem. Okay, so now just kind of plugging in and reading along to kind of explain some of the differences. There will be other questions where they may not want them necessarily solved, or they may just ask questions in regards to the question. So here it says, Mindy simplifies the two expressions shown below. And again, simplifying means she worked it out. She's found the value. She solved for it. Without computing, explain how the values will differ. So here, they don't want you to necessarily solve it. They just want you to be able to look at it and tell what's the difference. So now we notice here you have 29.3 plus 9, and you have the same thing here, but it's in parentheses. When you see a number here where you have the number and then something in the parentheses, this tells you that you're going to multiply. So here it says, look to see how the expressions are the same and how they are different. So we know that both expressions involve adding 29.3 to 9. That's what they both have. That's the same. But expression 1 shows parentheses, which is here. But expression 2 does not have parentheses, which is how they are different. So decide how the value of the expression will differ. Here you'll get the same answer when you add, but the difference is once you multiply this answer times 5, your expression will be 5 times greater than that. So the value of expression 1 will be 5 times greater because you're multiplying that by 5 than the value of expression 2. Hope this helped you guys, and I believe I also posted the notes like this on, what was that, Google Classroom or something. If you still need any help, just let me know.